It looks like it's a Jeep. Maybe a Jeep Liberty, I'm not exactly sure, but apparently this person is wanted for an assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. There were undercover officers involved at one point, but at this point all I see is San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies now in pursuit as this guy moves over to the left lane. He's in the fast lane on the westbound side of the 60 freeway. Again, as we make our way, it's just south of Ontario Airport, I should say, as we make our way a little bit further west, approaching Archibald Avenue, and he is picking up a little speed. Earlier, he was, again, doing circles in the Ontario area. Not really clear on where he wanted to take it, but ended up getting back on the freeway just in the last couple of minutes. He was on surface streets for a while. Not sure where this all started, but again, as I mentioned, he was at one point coming down the 15 freeway before getting into this area. So now we're continuing westbound side of the 60 freeway. He's going to start hitting a little bit of traffic as we get a little bit further to the west, but for the time being, you can see he does have some room to play with here. As he entered the freeway, I'm not sure if you noticed, it looked like the sheriff's deputy right behind him was either trying to get a better look inside the driver's side window or maybe trying some other tactic there, but it almost looked like he was going to maybe try a pit as he was going slow enough when he was on that transition. Maybe he was going to try the pit. I only say that because he got really close. He got right up behind him. You don't normally see that unless he's maybe contemplating a possible pit maneuver. But in the meantime, you can see now he's doing excessive speeds here, over 80 miles per hour. No way to do a pit maneuver in the middle of the freeway here, so they're going to continue this pursuit now. Several deputies right behind him, and we are now doing, again, right about 70 to 80 miles per hour. Again, here's that traffic I was talking about. A little bit slower up ahead here, but he is hugging that HOV lane for the time being, guys.
Well, Chris, we did notice, Dave and I were commenting, that was a strange maneuver that took place a little bit earlier on. They got pretty close to that Jeep Commander, but we're watching him really cruise through this traffic, and he was going upwards up to almost 100 miles per hour just a short time ago. 103
is what I saw on one acceleration there, so he's really moving. Right now, you can see on Air 7, the counter there at 69 miles per hour, but he was really going at some time, and that looks like a pretty big vehicle too.
Sure does.
Yeah, a larger SUV, definitely a Jeep model of some sort, and I can tell you again that we do have information that he's wanted for assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer, also a failure to yield, obviously, and a number of other charges stacking up as we speak. But certainly, based on that information, he is considered armed and dangerous according to law enforcement, so they're going to treat this very delicately. That will play into their decision-making as we get further along in this pursuit, especially as he starts to get closer to other innocent motorists here. So again, he's weaving through this traffic as police try and keep up with him. Wouldn't be surprised if at some point they put this into a tracking mode, but again, based on the want here, it's so serious that they're certainly not going to let him go by any means. So we've got the sheriff's deputies involved in the pursuit up until this point. I do believe that CHP was anticipating the possibility that he enters the freeway, and so earlier he was close to the 10 freeway. They had units ready to take over, and I believe before too long here we will see CHP take over this pursuit on the 60 freeway. They just have to get enough units in place to catch up with them. But in the meantime, you've got San Bernardino County Sheriffs on the ground, as well as the San Bernardino County Sheriff helicopter overhead as well, calling out the positions here. So again, he's weaving through those left 3 lanes there, trying to outrun the cops. It's not going to work, but they are keeping a little bit of a distance, as you can tell by this shot here. If we go ahead, widen out just a slight hair here, you can see that they aren't even in the frame here. Not sure if they're stuck back there. If we pan over to the right a little bit, the closest officer is quite a distance now. Definitely giving him some room to play with. Maybe they are just trying not to antagonize him, but certainly you would expect that they would be a little bit closer. I would not be surprised, as I mentioned, if they do decide to temporarily put this in tracking mode, again, especially based on his proximity to all of these innocent motorists as we approach the 4 o'clock hour here.
And as he's heading westbound, is he heading toward traffic, I guess, westbound 60? Where will he go next?
If he continues westbound here, we're making our way through Chino now, but the next freeway up ahead is going to be the 71 freeway, and that will be an opportunity for him to, yeah, it looks like he's moving over to the right lane there. Maybe he'll take the freeway, maybe he'll continue on the 60 freeway, could make it up to Pomona if he takes the 71, or he can continue westbound towards LA County. It's up to, well, here he goes over the Gore Point here, definitely showing signs of desperation. And what's interesting here is this erratic driving that we're seeing here in the last 60 seconds is without any units immediately behind him. So he's definitely on the run here, aware of the helicopter overhead possibly, and aware of obviously the police back in the distance, but it's quite a distance. The closest primary unit in this pursuit is quite a distance behind this SUV, who's now riding the shoulder, and it does look like he's going to be getting off here. This is going to be that might be Ramona Avenue as he makes his way through Chino here. Yeah, getting off at Ramona Avenue. We'll see if he goes north or south here. He was going westbound on the 60 freeway for your reference. Now he's making a southbound turn onto Ramona Avenue. So now he's in Chino as we make our way southbound towards downtown Chino. Again, we will have another opportunity to meet up with the 71 freeway if he continues southbound as well, or he can traverse the surface streets of Chino. We'll see what he decides to do here, slowing down a little bit, but still, okay, here he goes over the double yellow lines and even into oncoming lanes of traffic a little bit here. So this guy, very desperate to get away, and there may be more than one person in the vehicle is what I'm being told. Obviously, we've got the driver, but there may possibly be other individuals in this SUV, and they are believed to be armed and dangerous. So a very serious situation here. San Bernardino County Sheriff going to follow him off the freeway. But again, you saw those closest units behind him were quite a ways. So now they're relying on that helicopter to guide them in here, and they're going to have to traverse here on lanes of traffic with a possible, potential for a head-on collision. When you see these kinds of moves, certainly a very desperate individual behind the wheel.
It's dangerous too because the police units have backed off, at least that last time we saw that. So there may not be a warning of lights and sirens right behind him to let other folks know that something unusual is happening here. So here he is pulling into a parking lot. I still don't see police units behind him. So when he pulls over...
Look at that. There's an officer ahead that was maybe going to get involved here, may not even be aware, but this guy is now maybe trying to hide out behind this business. Might be a drive-through bank. I'm not sure there. Now going to make a turn and go northbound on Ramona Avenue. So you saw there was an officer there, probably a Chino police officer waiting for him. Or maybe oblivious. I mean, it looked like he had his lights and sirens on, so I have a feeling that officer was waiting for him to continue southbound. He might have seen that officer and decided to turn around. That's, I think, why he decided to pull into that parking lot there and do a U-turn here. Now he's going back northbound. If he continues northbound, you would expect that we might see some of those other deputies who were following him on the 60 freeway here. We'll see what he decides to do. Dropping somebody off, just got out. A passenger out, I believe the rear passenger door. So we have a passenger jumping out, unclear, again, how many people may be inside this SUV. We at least have the driver, we had a passenger, and now we have an armed and dangerous individual who's really amping things up here, acting much more erratic in the last 5 minutes and trying desperately to hide out. I would say he's trying to just escape police. He doesn't, I'm sure he doesn't think that he's in the clear here, especially with the helicopters overhead. But I can't imagine that it'll be too much longer before we start to see some more black and whites pull into the frame here.
Right.
He's certainly been driving erratically, and we saw him drop off that person, but it was easier to watch a high-speed pursuit on a freeway than you get on these surface streets. It gets a little more nerve-wracking and dangerous, of course, putting people in danger.
Especially after yesterday, Ellen, when we saw that person on the scooter getting hit on those surface streets when they run through those intersections. This is when it gets really dangerous. I don't know, I'm guessing here, but it almost looks like he's a little bit lost, or he's looking for a place to maybe drop somebody else off or perhaps bail. He does seem to be kind of looking around as opposed to just a few seconds ago where he is just, going as fast as he can, going around people. Now he seems to be kind of meandering, searching, going on different lanes and looking on different sides of the roads and varying his speed a little bit, like he's a bit confused in what to do at this point.
Well, it's interesting. You got to wonder why he picked that spot to drop off the passenger, whether he's familiar with that area, whether the person lives or knows people in that area to hide out. Again, we don't know how many more people might be inside the vehicle, but he is now continuing westbound on Riverside Drive, now riding on the shoulder, over the dirt, around a power pole, hitting some traffic here with very little room to maneuver and showing very, very erratic moves here. Again, in the last 5 to 10 minutes, it was a pretty tame pursuit when he was coming down the 15 freeway, doing some circles in Ontario, and then he got on the 60 freeway when we joined you live on Eyewitness News. And just in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes that we've been off the freeway, he's really shown some signs of desperation here. And I still, as we look down there, I still don't see any more law enforcement that's been able to catch up with him since we got off the 60 freeway. So it's been a couple minutes now where he's had lots of room to play with, took the opportunity to drop somebody off in Chino, and now we're continuing westbound on Riverside Drive. Again, the next freeway is going to be the 71 freeway. Once again, he'll have an opportunity if he wants to get on the freeway. There's not a lot of traffic on the 71 freeway, so we'll see what he decides to do. Otherwise, he can continue in the westbound direction. Looks like he's making a northbound turn. That's going to be End Avenue, I believe, or maybe East. That's East End Avenue. Check that, East End Avenue, northbound, approaching the 60 freeway. So he could opt to get back on the 60 freeway if he continues northbound on this roadway. This is a surface street here in Chino on the eastern fringe, or the western fringe, I should say, of Chino.
Yeah,
so go ahead, David.
Dave Coons is weighing in, our car specialist. He does confirm that it is a Jeep Commander, built from 2006 to 2010, and he adds that they get pretty bad gas mileage. It looks like a sizable vehicle, probably a pretty heavy vehicle,
Sure
so it may not get a lot per gallon, but it could have a larger tank too. We just don't know.
Yep, under the overpass, so he, I'm not sure where the entrance ramp is to the 60 there, if he's going to encounter that entrance ramp or if he's already bypassed it. Looks like he's on that surface street that's adjacent there. That might be County Road that he's on. Yeah, County Road, and he'll eventually hit another entrance ramp. So he's got the opportunity to get on the freeway there. A little more traffic as we made our way westbound through Chino here, but now he's pulling into a gas station.
Oh dear. Okay.
And coming real close to that pickup truck. Really erratic moves here, especially considering that there is no law enforcement nearby that we've been able to see. Nobody's really been able to catch up with him on the ground. They've got the helicopter overhead. You can see a deputy on the overpass there. Here they are. Okay, they've managed to catch up with him under the overpass, right along the train tracks. He's off-roading it now, right along the train tracks here, coming up on Walnut Avenue, and now we have an undercover vehicle right behind him, as well as several other units that have been able to catch up with him. Not exactly clear on which agency they are with, but again, Riverside officers were involved at one point, as well as San Bernardino County Sheriff. So it could be a hodgepodge of agencies here that we're dealing with. Chino Police obviously monitoring this as well. But you can see that undercover vehicle right behind him as he makes his way now in the opposite direction, going back in the eastbound direction on Walnut Avenue. You saw he was very desperate there, decided to off-road it a bit right along the train tracks. Was unclear what he was going to do there, but he decided to get back on a surface street here, and this is Walnut Avenue that we're looking at. He got under the freeway and is now paralleling the 60 freeway here in Chino.
Showing desperation to get away, and this person is suspected of assault with a deadly weapon on an officer. He's considered armed and dangerous, so they have to handle this guy very carefully. But you can see him driving on the wrong side of the road several times, going on the shoulder of the road.
We want to show you that moment where somebody bailed out of the car. Watch closely, and I'm curious to see which door it is the back passenger. You're right, Christy. Well, I think it was the back passenger door where this, I believe, was a woman who jumped out of that vehicle, and which makes you wonder if there is somebody, in fact, in the passenger seat, in the front seat as well. So there could have been multiple people in that vehicle, and there could still be multiple people in that vehicle right now. But that was a look at something that happened just a few minutes ago where somebody bailed out of the vehicle. The back passenger side door opened up, and she jumped out.
Yeah, good observation there. If it was indeed the rear door, that would indicate that there's a likelihood of somebody else in the front passenger seat. We'll see if we can get a better glimpse here. Looks like there is an arm at the passenger window. So we've got at least 2 individuals to consider here inside this vehicle, and possibly more. Again, armed and dangerous suspects. LA County's sheriff helicopter is now overhead as well. So again, numerous agencies involved in this pursuit already. If you include Riverside County The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, CHP on the freeway was following him as well, and now we have LA County Sheriff engaged as well from up above. So lots of law enforcement to catch up with this guy. You know, when they hear a 245, that's going to be the code out here in San Bernardino for assault on assault with a deadly weapon, and it was on a police officer. They are not going to let this go at all. And you can see he's going right through a red light there. Very desperate to evade police officers, but I just don't see it happening, guys. This guy is going to be taken down one way or the other this afternoon. We'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out as we make our way continuing eastbound on Riverside Drive here in San Bernardino. This pursuit continuing as we kick off the 5 o'clock hour.
So a little bit more information there. You see a handout on the passenger side. So this is from Dave Coons again, our car specialist, who gives us more information. He says this particular vehicle, this Jeep Commander, does come with an optional third row seat. It can seat up to 7 people. So we know there's at least 2 people in that vehicle right now. There could be more.
Absolutely. And, you know, at one point, I know that they were considering in Ontario a spike strip. They never actually managed to successfully try that, but they are certainly considering all options here. The thing is, when you know, we don't know how many people are inside, and more importantly, what the extent of the weaponry that they have in there. You know, what are they carrying that is leading them to believe that these guys are armed and dangerous, besides the fact that, well, obviously they have information that we don't have considering the original want here, but they are going to treat this very gingerly as they eventually catch up with him, and ultimately when this pursuit comes to an end, it's going to be a moment of drama, as they all are to some degree or another. But you can see we're continuing here eastbound on Riverside Drive, just passing 14th Street with, I believe that's going to be San Bernardino County Sheriff once again right behind him. Rob, if we push in there just a smidge, you can see it looks like, or that actually might be Chino Police. Looks like Chino Police right behind him, pulling up along the left rear, and whether they've given the go-ahead for that pit maneuver or not, I can't tell you, or maybe he's just trying to get a better glimpse, but it did look like he was pulling up ahead. Now he's coming up on the right side, and maybe he's just trying to, yeah, he's just kind of anticipating his moves here. Not a lot of traffic to contend with. He saw that car up ahead, and he knows that this guy's desperate to weave through traffic, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's been doing it for the better part of the last hour now. Whenever he encounters any traffic, he has no problem oncoming lanes, over the double yellow lines, even off-roading at one point a few minutes ago, paralleling those train tracks before getting back on surface streets. But when he sees traffic, he has no problem weaving through here. So now police trying to keep up with him as he navigates some of this rush hour traffic. Again, it looks like he's got much of this particular road to himself, with the exception of a few cars on the roadway. But again, we're continuing in the eastbound direction along Riverside Drive here in Chino.
We're showing you some video now on the right-hand side. That's when he went off-roading, what Chris is referring to. He seemed to jump out of a gas station, get back onto the street, take a quick turn to the right, did a little bit of off-roading, then hopped back on the road after he saw, as you can see on the right-hand side, an undercover vehicle in fast pursuit of him. Now we're back to that live picture.
And it really looks like that Chino police car is getting closing that gap and trying to get a little bit closer to the suspect's car. As we've been watching, but as he's going through these intersections, that's when it gets a little bit dicey and getting on the wrong side of the road as well.
Yeah, he just made a northbound turn onto Euclid Avenue, so getting off of Riverside, now heading back towards the freeway. 60 freeway up ahead. If he continues northbound on Euclid Avenue, you can see they have a primary unit right behind him, and that undercover officer still involved in this pursuit. It'll be interesting to see which agency he's from. It may be the original agency in pursuit. We don't know if that was Riverside or San Bernardino, but he's right behind the primary unit in this case, and then there are several other black and whites behind him. So several units on the ground there participating in this pursuit. 2 law enforcement helicopters overhead here, and we are now approaching Walnut Street once again, and he looks like he just passed his opportunity to get onto the 60 freeway. If he was going to go eastbound, he could decide to go westbound, and it looks like that's what he's going to do. Back on to the transition to the 60 freeway. We're going to be going once again westbound towards LA County. So we're in Chino, entering the 60 freeway, and he'll be back in the direction of LA County, where LA County is already monitoring from above, and they will have units on the ground as well. CHP also monitoring. If he stays on the freeway, they will eventually take this over.
Bit of a relief to see him at least get off those surface streets where a lot more danger could happen to the pedestrians there and just the people walking around, the people on bicycles and scooters like we saw yesterday. So at least it is on the freeway now.
Yeah, and really, you could just kind of tell there was no rhyme or reason through any of that. The only goal in his mind at this point is to try and outrun the police. So this is now a game of simple cat and mouse. This is a cat and mouse pursuit with a felony suspect behind the wheel. Several people in that vehicle at one point. Now we know of at least a driver and a passenger who has occasionally waved his arm out the passenger side window, having fun with police, and they will be taken down this afternoon one way or the other. As we've been mentioning, you can see law enforcement right behind him, not letting him out of his sight. Earlier, they did give him a little bit of distance on the freeway. Now they are right behind him. Once again, maybe 6 car lengths behind that Jeep, and he is continuing now as he gets back over to the carpool lane, heading back towards LA County. If
you're just joining us, we're watching this pursuit that began about 4:15 in Rancho Cucamonga. I'm here with Mark Brown. This is Eyewitness News at 5 o'clock. We'll continue to watch this breaking news as he makes his way on that 60 freeway eastbound.
And let's not forget, Chris Christie, that about 15 minutes or so ago, he let out a passenger. A passenger looked like a female, got out of the vehicle and started walking. So we don't know if she's been apprehended. We assume she has, because there are a number of units involved. And one of the trailing units would have, we assume, gone and picked her up. So they may be getting some information from her, interrogating her, questioning her as we speak. I believe that video is up here on the left, on the right-hand side of your screen. There she is, getting out. And trying to casually walk away. There's no way you're going to casually walk away and escape from that. The police were on her, we know. So we'll try to find out what they're able to glean from her. We don't yet know the nature of the assault of which these people are accused of committing on a police officer, a law enforcement officer. But that is the charge, that is a suspicion, and they're being trailed now by units of varying agencies. I see a completely black unit that is, we don't know if it's an undercover car, detective car, we don't know, but the CHP has been involved, Sheriff's Department vehicles have been involved, San Bernardino County Sheriffs have been involved, as well as other agencies. So we're going to try to find out more about the initial want that had police after this individual. And
what do you think, 90 minutes?
What are you seeing up ahead, Chris Christie?
So we've got a little more traffic up ahead here. There's also either an accident or a traffic stop up ahead as well as he continues to make his way closer to the 71 freeway. Mark, you're so right about that. Very peculiar why he picked that location to drop off that passenger, but it does appear that that passenger has indeed been taken into custody by one agency. I'm not sure which agency, possibly Chino PD, maybe a different agency. There have been several undercover units involved in this pursuit at various points, starting from the very beginning when he was coming down the 15 freeway. I'm not sure where this originated yet, but as he's made his way into San Bernardino County, there again have been several that we've observed, including the unmarked unit right behind the primary unit you see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen right there. So we do have, well, and you're right, by the way, most certainly getting some intel from that passenger as well. So you can see now another unit now coming into picture here. This is going to be CHP. CHP is officially going to take over this pursuit. Chino police held on to it for quite a while, but now as he commits to the 60 freeway, CHP is now officially taking over the pursuit. That's going to be the new primary unit that you see right there on the right-hand side of your screen as this person gets closer to the 71 freeway, and it looks like he's going to be committing to the 60 freeway, bypassing the 71, and now getting close to the Diamond Bar area.
It looked like he was contemplating exiting the freeway and then just went back onto the freeway there, but As we're watching this live look from Chris Christie, this man is desperate to get away, and we know it's a Jeep Commander, and our Dave Coons car specialist says it doesn't get great gas mileage, so that's encouraging. That's
encouraging, and so it may not last too long, but the speeds have been high. There have been triple-digit speeds at various points along this pursuit, and some pretty dangerous maneuvers, too. We saw him going against traffic on surface streets. We saw him going on the right side of the road, on the shoulder, on both the left and the right shoulder at varying points. I think he ran through a couple of red lights or stop signs. And again, when he was on surface streets, it was very dangerous. And then, of course, he went off-road for a time in San Bernardino County, which, you know, might have afforded him an advantage in times past. But, you know, the pursuing officers are in SUVs as well.
Right, and this looks like where the undercover officer started pursuing him, right underneath that bridge. As when he comes back the other side, you'll see that black vehicle behind him.
Right. So apparently they were waiting for him. Something told them that he might try to do that. So this is interesting. This might be something someone they know something about.
Right.
Because there's why would they have you know, anticipated him going under the bridge like that, if they did?
Yeah, it's good point.
Odd to see him slowing down slightly, all the way down to about 40 miles per hour at one point here, and now back up to the mid-60s. But he's got the entire roadway to play with here. You would, you know, based on the behavior that we've been observing, you almost would have expected that he would be going a little bit quicker. Now he seems to be, relatively speaking, slowing down to about 65, 70 as he makes his way westbound on a wide open 60 freeway, making his way into the Diamond Bar area. And as the sun begins to set here in Diamond Bar, you can now see the night sun from the LA County Sheriff helicopter, which has joined the pursuit. So we've got CHP right behind him, and now being assisted by the LA County Sheriff's Department from above as these positions are called out. But for the time being, maintaining a pretty steady 70 miles per hour. Now getting over to the right lane, may decide to get off at the 57. Well, the 60 basically ends at the 57, so he'll have to make a decision one way or the other, either northbound 57 or southbound here in Diamond Bar.
All right, we did notice his speed has slowed down quite a bit, and I'm wondering what his gas situation is. Dave Coons called it in terms of the level of, the gas mileage on one of these is not great. And, you know, the fact that he's got a wide open freeway and he's only going 56 miles an hour right now, I don't know what that means or I don't know what that means. If he's trying to conserve gas, if he's close to being empty, we don't know. There's no way for us to know. But it's interesting that at various times he's been in the triple digits. He's gone 100 miles an hour plus in this vehicle at different times during this pursuit. And right now, the wide open freeway with the CHP directly behind him, he's going 47 miles an hour.
Got a little bit of information from the Riverside Sheriff's Department. It says Moreno Valley deputies got information about the suspect they've been looking for. He's wanted on a felony warrant, assault with a deadly weapon. And when they made contact with him, that's when that pursuit began, approximately 4:15 this afternoon. It's unclear what agency officer was involved in the attempted assault, but we do know it was wanted for assault with a deadly weapon on an officer.
Okay, well, they caught up with somebody that they have wanted and that they were looking for. Maybe that's why they were kind of staking out an area and were under that underpass, maybe, but they've been wanting and looking for this individual, apparently, someone that is known to them at least as a suspect. And so that may be why they have a little bit more information about who they're dealing with.
And he's really slowed down.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a good sign that he's running low on gas.
Right. Well, let's hope. I mean, just if he runs out, that doesn't necessarily mean it's over. We've seen standoffs before where the guy runs out of gas and just sits there and won't come out of the vehicle. We hope that isn't what happens here. We hope that this ends peacefully, that you know, nobody gets hurt, and this all ends in a way that is safe for everyone involved, including the people driving on the 60 freeway right now. We are westbound on the 60 freeway in Diamond Bar in LA County now. It's been in San Bernardino County for a good portion of the pursuit. Now it's crossed over into Los Angeles County. We can assume an LA County Sheriff's helicopter is overhead, along with our Air 7 HD, along with whatever other agencies are involved here. We know Chino PD has been involved, San Bernardino County Sheriff has been involved. So varying agencies taking charge, handing it off to others in a pretty seamless fashion, something they're pretty used to now with these pursuits, the way they can go through different jurisdictions.
And very light traffic right now for this pursuit happening, which is good for the people that aren't on the freeway, that perhaps a little less people at risk for this driver that has been driving really erratically, very quickly, but now very relatively slow.
Right, 52 miles an hour. Chris Christie, what's ahead of him right now? Is traffic slowing down up ahead, or is there any reason why he's only going 51 miles an hour?
Yeah, he's got some traffic to contend with. He's on the 50. He's back basically where the 60 freeway meets the 57 in Diamond Bar. So he'll have a decision to make here between staying on the 60 or continuing southbound on the 57 freeway. And it's so interesting, and you're right, by the way, he's definitely slowing down for no apparent reason. You see he's got plenty of freeway ahead of him here to play with, and he's just basically slowed down for no apparent reason. Pretty heavily tinted windows, as you can see from this shot right here. We'll try and get a little bit closer on that driver's side window. But you're so right, Mark, about that dance that law enforcement is playing up here. This is a tremendous example of excellent cooperation between a number of different counties and police departments. We have Ontario has their helicopter up as overhead as well, and now CHP's helicopter overhead. So in dramatic LA fashion, especially with a strongly armed and dangerous pursuit suspect leading police on this wild pursuit, we now have an army of helicopters engaged in this pursuit from above, helping out the units on the ground. CHP taking over on the freeway there, and he looks like he's going to commit to the 57 freeway here, going to take us southbound through Diamond Bar. So that's the decision point that he had to make here, whether he was going to continue westbound on the 60 or get on the 57. It looks like he's staying on the 57 freeway now, going south towards Orange County.
Looks like about 5 black and whites behind him right now. Occasionally we see a passenger. It looks like a hand comes out the window and holding onto the window. But we don't know how many passengers are in this car, but we do believe there are at least 2 people riding in there.
And the speed's really dropping, 46 miles an hour. Maybe there's something wrong with the vehicle right now. Something's happening with it.
Well, this is an area where the freeway incline increases just a little bit, so he's basically going uphill a bit. Now, that's unclear whether he's got it on cruise control or what he's doing here, but that may play into his speed as he goes uphill on the freeway here. Again, a slight incline, but that'll make a difference. Often does with traffic. When you go up these inclines, traffic slows down quite a bit. He may be subconsciously slowing down on his own here. Speculation on my part, but that's one possibility. Certainly no other reason I can see here why he is just doing right about the speed limit, basically between 50 and 60 miles per hour, allowing that black and white right behind him to maintain that distance. Again, about 8 car lengths right behind him, and several more units right behind them. So if we look at this shot here, we've got at least 5 black and whites. I believe most, if not all of them, are the California Highway Patrol, all of whom are pit qualified if they have an opportunity at some point to take that tactic, or maybe even set up for a spike strip. If they could set up at one of the off ramps, they may start closing off traffic ahead of him. I'm going to assume here that they're running a traffic brake behind him. It does look like I haven't seen anybody pass him, so I'm pretty sure that CHP is now braking traffic behind him. He won't have anybody coming up from behind, but we can expect that at some point they will start having units block off the entrance ramps up ahead here as we make our way in towards Yorba Linda. Or actually, I would check that. I'm going to say heading up towards Brea up ahead here.
Okay, and he's had the freeway all to himself so far.
Yeah, and that's one thing they do for safety. You know, if they can block the on-ramps and keep traffic from being around him, that helps everybody. It makes it easier for everybody to maneuver, in effect. The CHP officers, the pursuing officers, can get up close. Excuse me, they don't have to worry necessarily about people getting caught in a crossfire if they end up having a situation where weapons have to be fired. The fewer people in an area where you're dealing with a suspect, the better. That's whether you're on foot or in a vehicle. And they're trying to adhere to that at this point as well. There's certainly plenty of backup available, both within the CHP and within the various jurisdictions that they're passing through right now. They can get on these on-ramps and keep people off. You can bet that there's back there's probably a CHP officer running what they call a round robin, where they can keep traffic kind of stopped and keep it away from this pursuit. Chris, any other information you've been able to glean about what sort of assault this was initially? Has anybody been able to determine that?
Yeah, hey there, Mark. Sorry about that. I'm back with you. Unclear what prompted this, only that it's an assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. And that's almost, absent any other information that we have currently, that's almost all you need to know about how serious and how dangerous this person is behind the wheel. Dangerous suspects behind the wheel, and officers who will stop at nothing to take this person, these people, into custody. When you're talking about charges of that nature, it just makes things so much more serious for everybody involved. Everybody's got a dog in the race, if you will, and you can see CHP now the primary agency here. They are actually handing it off to another CHP field office, and they are doing that dance now as we make our way into Orange County. Orange County's CHP station taking over here, and we'll have new units replacing the units that we've been watching here for the last several minutes. But again, southbound now on the 57 freeway. He'll have an option to take the 90. He can get off at the 90 or continue southbound towards Placentia. So we'll see what he decides to do here, but at least 2 people in that vehicle, armed and dangerous. And to answer your question, Mark, we really don't have much more than that. Assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer, and I'm not sure if that happened today or if this is an outstanding charge, a warrant may be out for his arrest. Don't have that information at this point. Certainly law enforcement does have that information, in addition to lots of other information about the suspect, presumably maybe trying to contact relatives or the suspect himself. But at this point, all of that is speculation on my part. You can see he's had the driver's side window up the whole time. The heavily tinted windows, the only window that we've seen come down was the passenger side window, with the passenger in the front seat waving his arm at the vehicle at various points. And again, he did drop somebody off, a passenger from the back seat. Did make a run for it in Chino when we were back in San Bernardino County, but that person has now been taken into custody, and presumably they're getting information from that female suspect as well. So law enforcement with lots of information at their disposal, but it's a lot of question marks up here for us.
Well, we hope to get some of our questions answered if we can. We have Bruce Thomas, a law enforcement expert, with us now on the phone. Bruce, are you there?
I sure am.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about, the charge this suspect is facing. I guess the initial thing that kind of sparked the whole pursuit, and that's assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. This is one of those things that they cannot really let go in terms of, oh, we'll back off and catch this guy later, right?
No, what you have is an egregious felony, a level 1 type charge. That's probably the one thing on a pursuit that a watch commander or field supervisor involved in a pursuit will let go at almost any cost, unless it becomes so dangerous. But in this case, CHP is going to follow him. They're going to surveil him from the helicopter, and eventually it'll become a felony traffic stop.
Bruce, as the night falls, it'll just continue to be a pursuit. They will continue just on with the vehicles?
Yes, it will. They've got multiple units involved in the pursuit. And like I said yesterday, because we had another pursuit, the lead car is not calling the pursuit. The secondary vehicle is calling it with assistance from the helicopter if their CHP does have one up. If not, they'll ask for mutual assistance and get the local sheriff in the area.
And they're going to try to keep those on-ramps closed off as this thing proceeds down the freeway, right, to do whatever they can to keep traffic out of the way?
Eventually they might get to that point. Traffic does seem to be fairly light, but as we saw yesterday, they did do that. However, it's a lot harder and a drain on the manpower pool to do that.
Okay. All right. So as we proceed, something that occurs, some of these pursuits end in standoffs where the suspect sits down in the car and just doesn't want to come out. Is there an effort to include a canine officer in a pursuit, or is that something they just wait until they end up in a standoff to do, or is that something they think about, strategically as they follow this person that, hey, we might need a canine once this thing comes to an end?
Yeah, great question. They do try to have a canine maybe involved in the pursuit or in the area, so if they need one, it's there almost immediately. As we saw yesterday, CHP had a canine that was there. However, the Orange County Sheriffs, which were rolling for the response on the traffic stop at Camp Pendleton, they couldn't get there because traffic was so backed up. So in this case, they definitely have a canine in the area.
And since this suspect is, wanted with assault with a deadly weapon on an officer, and we considered armed and dangerous, obviously, do they just continue to pursue him, or do they ever try to do a pit maneuver on that type of dangerous suspect?
You know, once again, at these speeds, the pit maneuver is basically not going to happen. However, they will continue to surveil him and basically be in pursuit of the suspect. They'll do handoffs with different CHP jurisdictional areas. If he gets off the freeway, those local police departments or sheriff's departments in the area have been notified of the pursuit and where it's going, so they will have a containment set up immediately for the suspect.
Okay, and I want to make note of what's happening right now as he's southbound on the 57 in Orange County, heading into, going through Fullerton. Traffic is backing up. Traffic is getting heavier. This makes it dicier for these pursuing officers, does it not? I mean, now you've got a situation where he might, we've seen people we've seen people carjack people when traffic is heavy. We've seen people foot bail when traffic is heavy like this. They'll drive on the shoulder. They'll kind of bull their way through other cars. Does this complicate matters for the pursuing officers?
Very much so, because one of the things you take into account in any pursuit, no matter what the crime is the safety of the officers, the safety of the general public, and believe it or not, the actual safety of the suspects.
We don't know how many suspects are in that vehicle. We know at least two. There could be more. He dropped off somebody earlier on in this pursuit. So now we're watching him just drive in the HOV lanes, and hard to tell how fast he's going, but he was slowing down for a bit. Looks like he's, well, there he is, about 56 miles per hour. So.
Yeah, still in the 50s, but traffic he's basically moving kind of with the flow of traffic. He'd been hitting the triple digits at various times. When you have different agencies involved in a pursuit as it passes through these various jurisdictions. You've got the CHP in this case as the lead agency. He's on the freeway and has been for quite some time now. But when at various points there were different sheriff's departments and police departments, and they may have different tactics and different policies in place about how to deal with a pursuit suspect. Some agencies use the pit maneuver, some agencies don't. Some agencies actually will ram a vehicle. We've seen that. Other agencies don't. Do they coordinate in terms of what they're going to try to do at the end, or does each agency, whoever happens to be in the lead, just do whatever he or she is trained or employed to do within their agency?
Yeah, what they have is they have a thing called POST, Peace Officer Standard and Training, which is mandated by the state of California. Every peace officer in the state goes through basically the same training. There are some variations on the felony traffic stop. Some agencies will call the suspect back to the officer.
Real quick. I hate to interrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Real quickly.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
He's heading on the 91, and he's going eastbound on the 91. This may be a bad move. Looks like traffic is pretty backed up. This is in Orange County, Old Town Placentia, and getting onto the 91 eastbound in that kind of tan SUV that we are still following here, but not doing the triple-digit speeds. All right, but again, now he's heading to the east on the 91 freeway, kind of heading back in the direction from whence this all began. Now, continue with your thought, if you would.
I'm sorry, Mark. Yeah, so they all have the standardized training for pursuits, mandated pursuit training. They have to give certain indicators to the watch commander. But the variation will occur on the felony stop when it's finally done as how they get the suspect out and how they control him or her.
Okay. Now he's going through the HOV lane. Now he's trying to do some of those more tricky maneuvers.
Now he's back to that.
Now he's back to doing some of the more tricky stuff that he had been doing before and then kind of stopped doing. He's doing kind of what we sort of anticipated and what you talked about. When he starts getting, things get a little dicey, makes it trickier for those pursuing officers. Now he's on the 91 at Kramer Glassell. Looks like he's not getting off the freeway. Did kind of a head fake, it looked like, where he was going to try to head to the off-ramp and now doesn't. That sort of stuff doesn't really fool the pursuing officers, does it, when somebody kind of acts like they're heading on an off-ramp and then doesn't, correct?
No, not really. I mean, it's a tactic that the suspects think is going to work, but it's not, because when you have a pursuit, you cannot outrun the radio. CHP, the local agency, they have enough units there. The other thing, too, if it gets so dangerous, they will cancel the pursuit and go into a tracking or surveillance mode for the safety of everyone involved.
So they did make that decision based on how erratically he's driving and the safety of people on the road?
Yes, ma'am, and it looks like he apparently doesn't have his lights on either, so he's definitely trying to avoid the police.
He's back to his...
Now he's heading back in the opposite direction of traffic. This looks like an on-ramp that he's on.
Yeah, going the wrong way.
Right,
on
okay.
the
Go ahead, Chris.
on-ramp.
And
so
no
this
lights.
Is this is the transition at Glassell Street. So he's going the wrong way on the on-ramp. They're going to follow him. Actually, I believe they're following him in this direction. But now he's getting off here, and again encountering oncoming traffic. Now making a right, so he can correct that, go the right way. Now he's making a northbound turn.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, no, he's going now back over the freeway. So, you know, it was earlier that he got off of the 57 and made that eastbound turn onto the 91. If he would have made a westbound turn onto the 91, there was much less traffic. But here's a passenger jumping out the passenger seat, and that passenger now looks like she's hurt. That passenger is now, as a female passenger, laying down in the middle of the roadway as the pursuit continues. She took a hard hit to the head with that door. She tried to jump out of a moving vehicle, and now she is lying still. He's slowing down dramatically down to 20 miles per hour, and things have really been ramped up here. We've heard that he was talking about letting that passenger out in communication with CHP, who's been talking to him on the phone. Now, this is, again, an armed and dangerous suspect wanted for assault with a deadly weapon. They zeroed in on him apparently in Moreno Valley. This is an outstanding warrant. They got a tip that he was in the area. They managed to track him down, and that's when the pursuit began in Moreno Valley. Unclear which agency he committed that assault with a deadly weapon, but it was an officer. It was assault with a deadly weapon on an officer, and there were several passengers inside this SUV. Earlier in the hour, we saw him drop somebody off in Chino, and now you saw a passenger from the front right seat, both female passengers, as he's now making a U-turn. Both female passengers are now out of the vehicle, and we have at least one driver inside this vehicle who is driving much more erratically, and we can only wonder what the condition of that passenger is now. She basically jumped out of a moving vehicle, took a hard hit with that door as he almost dragged her, and she fell immediately to the ground. So police officers back there, that's CHP with her, and we'll get her condition presumably here before not too long. But he's now coming up on Kramer Boulevard once again as he continues eastbound on La Palma Avenue here in Orange County. We are in Anaheim, and I have a feeling he jumped off of the freeway because traffic was just getting too slow. You saw when he started hitting all those brake lights, he started doing some more weaving, some more erratic driving, and finally said, you know what, I'm done with this. Let's get off the freeway. And now he's back on surface streets. We're on surface streets here in Anaheim, passing Armando Street. CHP still the primary agency here, and you can see they have their night sun up above. So this is getting ever more interesting. At the very least, we have one less passenger now inside that vehicle. So we have at least a driver. Unclear if there's anybody else, but at least two passengers who have now exited the vehicle, one of them possibly injured.
Well, she was very lucky that those officers were right behind and going slowly, because they were able to stop and block perhaps other cars from just running her over, because she was just there in the middle of the street.
And then when you look at this now, he made that bizarre maneuver going down the on-ramp against traffic, and then's going 20-something miles an hour. So as far as him trying to evade or escape, he's not. It doesn't seem like that's happening now. It seems like he's just driving around at this point. And here's the video we have that I'm talking about when he went up the on-ramp there off the 91
with his lights off
towards Kramer Glassell, I believe it was. And you know, with his lights off, this is a very dangerous maneuver. This is something you're doing when you're trying to escape.
Exactly.
But then he gets off the freeway and takes that right, and he's going 20-something miles an hour. So that was when he dropped off his passenger, who then was apparently injured by the door. Let's watch that video here. That's on. We don't have it yet, but we'll get to it in a second or two. On the left is the live picture of the suspect going now on East La Palma Avenue, going at about 35 miles an hour with the CHP in pursuit. North of the freeway, you see the night sun illuminating his position and path. Various marked units that are in the area. He's going through a red light right now.
And nothing really stopping him from going faster. So that I think you're right about that, Mark. He's not really trying to evade right now. He's just
He's just driving,
Yeah.
and all he did at this point was put a lot of people in danger, including his passenger, who jumped out of the car and got hit by the door, apparently, and nearly got run over and dragged. And here it is. Here it is on the right-hand side.
I think they're going to try a pit. They may try a pit here.
Okay. So
they may try a pit here. Anaheim PD has taken over the pursuit, guys. Anaheim, well, at least they're involved. I can tell you that CHP is still involved as well, but Anaheim has now entered the theater, and they are contemplating a possible pit maneuver. Certainly, he's going, well, maybe not quite slow enough. They like to see him slow down to about 35 miles per hour, ideally, for that pit maneuver, but if there's nobody else in danger, they may take it a little bit quicker if the supervisor gives the go-ahead. Now going through a green light. He's got the green light, making a right turn now. So he's making a right turn onto, I believe that's going to be Lincoln Avenue.
Right.
And he's going to have some roadway to himself here. But Anaheim PD, now the agency behind him with their helicopter overhead as well. We are in the heart of Orange County here as we make our way now north. Or, excuse me, I think we're yes, I'm sorry, south. We're going south on Lincoln.
Okay, and if you're in this area, it looks like a mixed area of both residential and business. If you live in this area, if you happen to be in this area, stay in your home. We've seen this guy doing some erratic things. There have been 2 people that have been dropped off in the vehicle. We don't know if he's going to try to foot bail at some point, but stay in your home, lock your windows, don't come outside and take a look at this, because this could be a dangerous thing. He is now on Lincoln, passing State College Boulevard. This is in Anaheim, now going, 30 miles an hour, between 30 and 35 miles an hour on this surface street, which is the speed limit, perhaps even below the speed limit in this area. And it's been at varying times fairly slow in the last half an hour or so, Ellen, in which I'm trying to figure out why, and the only thing I can think of is either there's something mechanically wrong with the vehicle, or he's sort of giving up and deciding not to put anybody else in danger.
Right, maybe he's arguing with people in the car. We don't know if there are other people in the car. He's already dropped off 2 people, but that, the officer's right behind him, and he's going slowly, and he has plenty of room up ahead to go faster, so you're right, it's peculiar.
Yeah, it almost seems like he was a little rattled when that passenger jumped out. That's really when he started to slow down, turn the lights off. He's now got all of his lights off. And I misspoke earlier. We're actually going westbound on Lincoln. We've just passed the 57 freeway. So westbound on Lincoln, Anaheim PD right behind him. And I think we should pay careful attention to that primary unit right there near the bottom of the screen. They may be setting up for that pit maneuver if he continues this trend here. He's slowing down. Earlier had no hesitation going into oncoming lanes of traffic. Looks like he's trying to stay on the right side now in a turn lane on Lincoln, coming up on East Street. If he makes the turn, or maybe just tries to cut off some of this traffic, no, he's making a turn here, making a southbound turn onto East Street, and you can see police following slowly behind him. Speeds now under 20 miles per hour. We'll see if he picks up a little bit of steam here, but for the time being, he has really slowed down. Suffice it to say, in the last 10 minutes, he's really slowed down. Not sure if there's an issue with the vehicle, but he is definitely, maybe it could just be stamina. I don't know, but he has definitely slowed down quite a bit and doesn't really appear to have a clear idea of where he wants to take this. We're seeing a lot of zigzagging, some circles here now as we travel through this neighborhood here in Anaheim.
All right, this is East Broadway at Farian Place, I believe. So again, just a warning for people in the area. This is one of the reasons that we try to maintain our live coverage of these. This puts people in danger in the area. They can foot bail. They can start knocking on doors. They might end up in your backyard. So please keep your doors and windows locked. This is near Elder Street. This is East Broadway in Anaheim Street. As you're passing through this area, it's residential. Looks like it's residential throughout this particular part of the city. Keep your doors and windows locked, and make note of its passing, but don't go out and observe for yourself, because you just don't know what could happen. As Chris Christie had mentioned, it looked at varying points whether this guy the pursuing officer might be setting up in a position to do a pit maneuver. If that happens, it'll spin the vehicle out, as we have all seen before. And it may stall, in which case this thing could end, or it could also end in a foot bail. The guy could take off running, or if he's smart, he'll just give up.
Now heading south on State College Boulevard, still going a pretty slow speed. and not a lot of traffic on that road. Perhaps they'll get their opportunity to do that pit maneuver. Taking a U-turn now going north, State College Boulevard.
Okay.
Going into a residential neighborhood now. So he may be zeroing in on an area he is familiar with, or he's just going on a joyride here, maybe through Anaheim. Unclear how familiar he is with the area, but as we've made our way into Orange County here, we just noticed that the speeds have really dropped dramatically, and this is the first time throughout this pursuit that we have actually been in a residential neighborhood. For the most part, he's been taking main arteries and a lot of time on the freeway, but this is the first time he's now in a residential neighborhood doing relatively slow speeds now. Unclear still how many people are inside the vehicle. Again, to reiterate, he's already dropped off 2 passengers. Now seeing a little bit of traffic, he's back on going the wrong way again in oncoming lanes of traffic. Again, to reiterate, this is a very dangerous person behind the wheel, wanted for assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer out in Moreno Valley, and that's where this pursuit began. There was a warrant out for his arrest. They tracked this guy down, probably, from what I understand, undercover units, but there have now been numerous agencies involved in this pursuit. For the better part of the last 90 minutes, we've seen more than a half dozen agencies at least take part in this pursuit. We'll see where he decides to take it from here, but he's gotten off the freeway and hasn't really shown signs of getting back on. Just a lot of traffic out there on a Friday evening, and so that seems to be his biggest obstacles. When he sees a lot of traffic, he immediately will do either a U-turn and do an about face and reverse course, or weave around traffic, at some points even going the wrong way. So a very desperate individual behind the wheel there. And as you mentioned, Mark, it's really any number of ways this could end. He's slowing down with the traffic here, coming up on another major intersection, again continuing southbound on State College Boulevard here in Anaheim.
And you were just watching on the right side of your screen the contrast in how he was driving earlier, 100 miles an hour, and now with the very slow speeds. And we have Bruce Thomas still with us. And Bruce, how does it change the tactic when they're in the residential neighborhood versus, busier streets or perhaps freeways?
Well, Anaheim PD, I think, is going to get fairly aggressive on some of the wider streets. They might pit him. His speeds are within the limit to do that. However, you need a nice, big operational area. The residential streets are kind of difficult, but like the street he's on now, this is an ideal opportunity. And every time he makes a turn, it just makes it easier for the officers to do the pit maneuver.
Mm-hmm. So you don't want to do it on a residential street, too narrow. The chance that you might hit a vehicle or hit somebody or run up on somebody's lawn, I guess that could happen. But on a street like this, you're saying, when it's wide, 3-4 lanes of traffic available, a wide intersection, something like this, where you could pit maneuver, this would be better, right?
Especially if he turns left or right. You get right up on him, give the vehicle gas, take out the rear quarter.
Yeah, maybe coming to a stop here.
Yeah, check this out.
Spin on it,
stop,
and then block him in.
All right,
Bruce,
you know
it looks
what?
like we're coming to a stop, 11 miles an hour.
All right, he had a hand out the window there for a second. Looks like he was going to come to a stop, and now he's continuing on, albeit very, very slowly. Speeds under 20 miles per hour as he makes his way, continuing southbound on State College Boulevard. Unclear why he's slowing down so dramatically. Again, it almost looked like he was about to come to a complete stop. So it may be an indication that he's running low on gas. He may be on the final fumes, but for all we know, he may still have some gas left in the tank. As you mentioned, Mark, these vehicles do not get great gas mileage. We don't have any idea really how much he started with, but it just is very apparent here in the last few minutes how much he has slowed down and almost came to a stop there. But he had a hand out the window, out of the driver's side window, and now crawling through this intersection. We're at Winston and State College Boulevard there, just past Winston, and now it does look like he's coming to a complete stop. We'll see if he pulls into this parking lot or continues on, but he is definitely
he's slowing down.
Giving officers at least some indication that he's trying to give up. They are talking to him. They were talking to him at one point via cell phone.
Out the phone? What's he waving out the window? Is he waving something?
It looks like just his arm. I didn't see anything in his hand, but he was waving out the driver's side window. And officers behind him do have their door, or had just a few seconds ago, had their doors open. But he's picked up a little bit of speed again. Crawling down State College Boulevard. He was waving. And what I was about to say was earlier, they did have communication with him via cell phone at one point. Not sure if that's still the case, if there's a negotiator involved here trying to get him to pull over, or maybe a family member, who knows. But they were in communication here not too long ago, before that passenger jumped out of the vehicle a few minutes ago. But again, he's showing some really erratic signs of giving up here, maybe deciding that he's had enough, or maybe just trying to exhaust the last remaining fumes of gasoline. We'll just have to wait and see. He's come to a complete stop now at East Cerritos Avenue here at along State College Boulevard. I can't tell whether he's got the green light. So he's stopped at a green light, or no, it's a red light, excuse me. He stopped at a red light, now all of a sudden deciding to obey the traffic signal. Stopped at a red light here right along State College Boulevard, and we'll see what they decide to do here. Here comes the canine. Here comes the canine dog, and they are on the phone with him. I'm being told they are on the phone with him, so that may be playing into their decision-making here, that they are communicating with him via cell phone, and it does look like they're setting up for the felony stop. Hopefully, he will decide to give himself up here, but a very armed and dangerous suspect who has led police on a 90-minute pursuit throughout the Inland Empire, ending up here in Orange County, hopefully about to give himself up here. As we've been talking about, this has been a pretty decent environment for them to bring this pursuit to an end. If they decide to get a little more aggressive, if he was to continue those moves, I would not have been surprised.
Driver's side door is opening.
The driver's side door is open, and it looks like he may be giving it up right here. We'll see. We'll go ahead and stay wide here just as a precaution to make sure things don't go sideways here, Mark. But he does have his arms and hands up in the air, and he is now facing away from police officers. He stepped out of the vehicle. This pursuit has come to an end. He'll be asked to get on his knees here momentarily, and they will handle him very, very gingerly as they take him into custody. What a crazy pursuit. Fortunately, does not appear we're dealing with any serious injuries here. Of course, there was one passenger who did appear to get hurt as she jumped out of a moving vehicle. But other than that, this has claimed no other casualties as far as we're aware of. And he's now stepping backwards, step by step, walking backwards in the direction of police officers. This is going to be Anaheim police right behind him here, who will be taking him into custody here in the next few seconds.
We still need to know if there are other people in that vehicle as well.
They will have to clear the entire vehicle. Once they take him into custody, they will step up to the vehicle, as we often see, and make sure there's nobody else, and they will eventually give the ubiquitous code 4 that we often see at the end of these pursuits. So that will be the indication that there is nobody else left inside the vehicle. But for the time being, the first priority is to get this driver into custody here, and they are going to take their time doing that. You can see the canine officer just behind him there, and it looks like he has decided to give up. I'm assuming it's a he. It was 2 female passengers that he dropped off, but I believe it's a male suspect that's giving himself up now.
Right, they're giving him directions. You can tell he's even looking back. It looks like asking for clarification at varying points about what it is they want him to do. But he is stepping away from the vehicle, moving again with his back towards the officers, with his hands up in the air. They're not having him lay down yet. And this is kind of what we've talked about. Varying agencies will have them do different things. Some of them will have them get down on their knees. Some of them will have them lay down.
I keep expecting him to get down on his knees or to lay down.
Others will have them back right up to them while standing, and then they can cuff their hands behind their back. So we'll see who's, how this arrest ends up being conducted. but it does look like it's ending with an arrest and ending with nobody else hurt. We have to emphasize, though, somebody looks like they may have been hurt. I think we can probably zoom in now. It looks like it doesn't look like there's going to be any gunplay here. The hands are up. And go ahead.
Oddly
Chris?
turned around now. This is odd. He's now facing police face to face. Very unusual for them to ask him to do that. So it looks like he's turning around. So now he's got his back once again to police. He's walking backwards, and they will take him hands behind his back here momentarily. So he's walking backwards in the direction of Anaheim police officers, and here we go. He is now being taken into custody. We have the freedom to go ahead and zoom in here. Officers still with their guns drawn, aimed squarely at that SUV now. All eyes are going to be on that SUV to make sure there's nobody else inside the vehicle. So this driver is now being taken into custody. We've counted a total of 3 people so far, 2 people who jumped out earlier. Now the driver being taken into custody here in Anaheim. We'll see if there's anybody else inside this vehicle.
All right, and they're going to have to make that approach. They're going to do that, and they're going to do that in a certain way. They do it slowly. If Bruce Thomas is still with us, he can perhaps give us some sense of how officers then, what's going through their minds and tactically what's going on as they approach a vehicle. Bruce, you still with us?
Yeah, Mark, what they've done the felony traffic stop. They've walked the suspect back to the front of their car, which provides cover for the officers. They'll handcuff him. They'll put him back to the rear of the cars. They'll ask him, anybody else in that vehicle? He may not tell the truth. He may tell the truth. They are tactically going to have to approach that vehicle. Possibly if they have a ballistic shield, they might use that for cover. They'll definitely deploy long rifles as they make that approach.
This is not a DUI suspect. This is not somebody who had a traffic violation and then ran away. This is somebody that they know or is at least suspected of having assaulted a police officer before. So this is a level, you talk about it, a level 1 felony. This is a dangerous guy, so they've got to be very careful with this vehicle.
Yes, sir. They don't know who else is in the vehicle, if there are weapons in the vehicle or not. You go with the assumption that at a higher risk you approach this vehicle, and then once you know, as Chris Christie said, it's code 4, the 4 fingers go up. Everybody knows the static is gone in the issue, and we can safely get the street opened.
And as Mark was saying, I guess each jurisdiction has different ways of doing their arrest, and some of them have them lay down on the ground. So they just vary from agency to agency, apparently.
Yeah, that's correct. The pursuit terminus at the end of the pursuit, how they call the suspect out, is basically the same, laying the suspect down on the street. Some agencies do that. My particular agency has others. I don't want to have the officers go in front of what we'll call the danger zone to handcuff or control the suspect. It's easier to bring him back, but each agency has their own policies.
Yeah, and you know what occurred to me, the guys seemed like he was asking for clarification. It's probably pretty hard to hear when you've got maybe 4 or 5 helicopters hovering 800 feet above you when people are shouting instructions at you.
And the dog was barking.
Dog barking, traffic noise, and these A-Star helicopters he might not have been able to hear.
Yeah, he might not have been able to. The other thing, too, and I've had it happen a couple of times in pursuits, some officer will leave his siren on. And you're like, okay, you got to turn that off because no one can hear. It's just one of those little funny things that happen.
Yeah, okay, there goes the dog. They're going to let the dog clear the car, which means they have a pretty reasonable suspicion there's nobody in. I don't think they'd let the dog go in there if they thought there was somebody in there with a gun. And it does look like it is clear.
That is wonderful news.
Yeah, some debris falling out of the rear passenger seat, but other than that, does not appear that there's anybody else in there. They're going to open up the back hatch, that door there, and make sure, but it does look like the vehicle is empty.
And the only injury could be that woman that was thrown out of the car, fell out of the car. We'll have to find out what happened there. We'll get more information, of course, on later editions of Eyewitness News. Chris Christie and Bruce Thomas, thank you so much for joining us with helping us out with this. We're going to talk about the weather because we're expecting a lot of rain this weekend, which is a very welcome sight after the cold, dry air.
That's right, Ellen, and we're forecasting not only some rain for Southern California, but a winter